And in the first session here, I suggested talk about navigating the dashboard, homepage view, looking at the management section when you're looking at active clients, what actions you can take there, diving into a device, what device level information and data we're surfacing. I think we should talk about user accounts at some point, what reports and alerts are available, and then if there's time, then starting to jump into settings. There's the general settings area. So we'll have, starting tomorrow, deep dives into each module. We could talk about the settings available with that specific module, but maybe today there's enough time to talk about general settings. And a lot of customers have begun using the Threat Hunting and Action Center as their starting points in the dashboard as a way of kind of actioning and reviewing data collected by Heimdal. So maybe time permitting, we can also jump into the Threat Hunting and Action Center since it's in a way navigational, or sort of a daily kind of product that you can review.
Sure thing. Should I start?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So let me share my screen. Good. And now I do have on my other screen a list of items that Adam suggested we cover. Okay, cool. So starting with the navigation of the platform itself. So once you have an account, you will be able to connect to the Heimdal portal. And in order to navigate the portal, what you would need to do. By the way, Adam, should we also cover the distribution angle or just the reseller angle?
I think we focus on like what things look like from a reseller and of course an end customer point of view, because that's the most pertinent here.
Okay, perfect. Just wanted to make sure. Okay, so when you connect, the first thing you will see is something similar to this as a partner. The customer, but in our case, since we work with MSPs, customers won't connect pretty often to their portals. A customer sees the same thing without the search box over here. So a customer would directly see their activity and no search box option. Now, to navigate this particular page, we have the time frame selector. This is basically telling the portal below how much data should it gather, right? Based on the time frame selector at the top. If I change the time and just do today, I'll see data pertaining from today's activity. If I go back, I can even choose last month and I'll get back to this. And then still in the same side of the screen, I have my endpoint settings and my network settings. Let's explain. At each customer level, when a customer account is impersonated as such, if you click endpoint or network settings, it will take you to the settings pertaining to that particular account. And endpoint settings the same. Now, these are the rule sets by groups on which the Heimdal product actually performs its job based on where is a computer, be it an endpoint or a server, located in what groups. And based on that, the entire Heimdal tool stack, and for the sake of it being a training, we have, first of all, unified endpoint management. Then we have DNS security, patch and asset management for third-party patch management, plus software monitoring, OS updates in the same category, endpoint detection, firewall alerts, antivirus, extended threat protection, ransomware encryption protection, privileges and app control. We have privilege elevation and delegation management. We have application control, email is another tool that's configured from the network settings, but we'll jump over because I know it's not a huge focus right now for future safe. And remote desktop. So all of these are configured by groups like this. And you have groups for Windows, Linux, macOS, and Android GP. The biggest OS coverage that Heimdal has is on Windows, followed by macOS, then Android, and the latest edition, Linux.
So just to spell that
mhm.
out a little bit more, with Mac OS, you get DNS filtering, patch management, PAM, and AV, which you can see here by going to an example settings. They are limited in certain ways. For instance, DNS, there's no custom block page. With patching, we just launched this in Q3 of last year. So when we launched, we had 24 third-party apps supported, and now we have 32, I want to say. So we're slowly building up on the third-party patching, but we have some common ones here, of course. And then on the OS updates, that's pretty similar to OS updates for Windows. You can schedule them out, allow postponements, put things on a reboot schedule. But that's all to say, Mac, like Andre mentioned, is second in terms of breadth. Windows is obviously the focus for us. And then Linux, correct me if I'm wrong, Andre, just offers patching, right? OS updates.
You are totally correct. So
Yeah.
on Linux, we have third-party patch management and OS updates. That's why I mentioned Android is kind of in between. It has the DNS security and the antivirus for Android, as well as mobile device management. But we will cover more about this when we actually get to the policies part. We will also cover how computers get assigned to the policy. We'll see if we have time today for this, but I believe that when we start entering the policies, then we will also cover how the assignment is being done. Okay, cool. Now, the other part that you see on the main screen, whenever you're on the home part, is the left-hand menu over here, in which you have your logout, home to bring you to the main dashboards, admin so that you can create a new tenant. And creating a new tenant is very easy. We will not linger on too much on the process, but that's where you would do that. Then you have your unified endpoint management. And over here, currently you have return on investment reports, which are also displayed here. Where's the active clients? Here. Okay. And you can see which modules based on, I believe the SANS Institute based on manpower per hour utilized to perform activity. In this example, this has this much value in patching, and I believe I have this in quarantine files and antivirus. And pretty soon you'll have BitLocker management and scripting under unified endpoint management here. I believe it's in about a week maximum.
Yeah, it's on our next release.
Exactly. So over here, we will then expand in the active clients menu. We have a special segment today on it, but further, I'll just go further so that you know where to find things. Products space. This is where you open to see what product activity has been logged in the time frame that you're looking at. For DNS, again, you have the network component, endpoint component, and the machine learning component. When we get to products, I'll talk a bit about each of them. Patch and asset management, endpoint detection, so on and so forth, right? And then you have a few other buttons that will that are very interesting. You have the threat hunting and action center, which, for the sake of the recording, this is an this is let's say, an add-on tool that enables threat hunters and security operations team to take action. And for the sake of the recording, I'll just open it up. And this comes pre-configured with all the products from Heimdal. And the Action Center will give you specific actions to take in an aggregated fashion, meaning that I see this happening 618 times, right, in my environment. Now I can either add this to an allow list, or if I don't want to see it anymore, I'll just resolve. This is informing me that a blocked program Adobe attempted to execute. Now, if I do want to resolve, I can do this with make the same selection for 7 days. I'll just confirm, and for 7 days, I won't be bothered about that. But we're gonna cover the threat hunting and action center in more details when we get to it. Next, we have the accounts.
Let's take a quick pause. Jason,
Oh, sure.
You have a question?
The threat hunting and action center, does it show everything regardless of the person's license entitlement? In other words, if they're only licensed for, let's say, 3 things, does it show them the threat landscape or the potential risks across even the ones they don't have enabled as a way to help them understand kind of what they're missing?
Very good question. Very good question. And thank you for stopping me, Adam. I was not seeing the screen. So thank you. Jason, basically this module will take data from the products that are subscribed in Heimdal. If let's say you don't have patch management or DNS, then the threat hunting and action center won't be capable of collecting that data. And you would not have it available here for checking. So vector and detection will be off in this particular case. Did that answer the question?
Yep. Yeah, perfectly. Thank you.
And
Okay.
just worth noting, I don't see a filter for it, so it's still not available, but there's intention to have the brute force attacks appearing here, and that is coming soon, but it's not currently. Oh, I'm sorry, they said the firewall check wall at the end, they added it. So I think that's only in release candidate. That's a recent enhancement, Jason, that I know we talked about. I think a month or 2 ago that we told you was coming.
Okay, cool.
ESEC is not on there, so I'm not sure if that's something that's planned for or not, but just a heads up as you start to test out that module.
Yep. Okay, then what's left on the main page before we move further? We have the accounts, guide, and support section. So support directly takes you to the support blog from Heimdal. In the guide section, we have a few things to show. So you have your Heimdal license key, API key, if you want to extract and authorize any API communication. Then you have your download and install, which has all the latest information about Heimdal agents available for download, the delivery launcher, a lot of documentation on multiple things like license agreement, pre-install and install checklist, which also contains something about the deployment, which we're going to cover today, and so on and so forth. So this is a treasure trove of agents, all of this, and install commands. And this is a treasure trove of information. Then you have the space where you would do your Azure sign-in. in which you connect your tenants so that you can do SSO. And I saw the question, Jason, just a second. You can do SSO, and you can also synchronize then the endpoints based on the groups that you select over here. You have a question, Jason.
What is the proper way for my team and myself to communicate support needs and questions to your team so that they most closely align with your operational workflow and cause the least amount of complication?
Adam, I would defer that one to you.
Yeah, I think so when thinking about our workflow, our support team, their break fix, right? Something's not working as it's designed, or you're not sure if you're missing something or if it could be a bug. The best thing to do is open up a support ticket and have those guys investigate and get back to you. A separate email for each individual unique issue. That allows them to work most efficiently without missing, a bullet point. If you have one email with a lot of different issues, something could get mixed. Also, it complicates when they should close out the ticket. So if I were to bucket things into categories, things not working as designed or expected, potential bug, etc. Create a ticket with our support team so it's tracked in Zendesk, and we could benefit from that. When it comes to training requests, helping onboard a large MSP, etc., that should be routed to me and Sam Lucas, who's the CSM I have on my team that helps with partners. Sam and I would be the ones to log feature requests or set up kind of some extra training for a special MSP customer that wants to be very hands-on in the dashboard. That can be brought up on one of our scheduled calls. So we used to do Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Now we have Wednesday and Fridays. So that could be done through Teams, email, whatever. It would be nice if it could just be like held off until our next call that we have on the books. And then, we could just go through those requests together and get them scheduled in. Any other categories or buckets? I guess that's really it. Did that answer your question in terms of how to best communicate?
Yes, most of the time, when I ask a question in this context, I'm forward looking for these videos to be used as training collateral for both my staff and perhaps clients who may want to deep dive a section or the product in its entirety. So some of the questions are really more an anticipation of using them for that purpose.
Understood. Cool. And so with that in mind, we do get requests sometimes from MSPs to, like, they're just curious, like, when is it a future safe question versus a Heimdal question? We always welcome direct communications if they want to just go right to our support team. But we also say, the future safe guys, they have a full-time team dedicated to Heimdal and have onboarded a lot of MSPs. So often is the best kind of initial course of action. Might be something they're already very familiar with. But if you have any other guidance on top of that or would like us to reshape kind of that communication, then we're happy to adjust.
Got it, thanks.
Okay, so let's continue the tour. So over here, again, very important. This is where you would connect your Heimdal console with your Azure tenant. Important again for using the Azure groups across endpoint assignment, as well as other functionalities across the product stack. And there's a quick guide on how to do that over here. As well as, since we have added the ConnectWise RMM or PSA integration, this is also the place where the customer would configure that, or the MSP would configure that for said tenant. And last but not least, we have the MXDR permissions, in which you have two interesting spaces. So here, this is basically a opt-out of Heimdal being able to see your data. So you will still have the backend services running in full for you. You will see your data. Heimdal support, and so on will not see your data. If you have this off, whenever support issues appear, you need to turn it on so that data can be collected and the issue investigated. Usually our customers have it on. And then we have the MXDR, or SOC, as Jason always refers to, permissions. Over here, we would need to add the contact person and also the decision matrix for what they are allowed to do, if they need to notify the customer or if they need to notify the reseller. And when you add in contacts, you can clearly state that this is from the reseller, so that it's easy to navigate. And you can add contacts with the time difference. So you can add somebody in the day shift, somebody in the evening shift, somebody on call, and so on and so forth. Now, across two sections, you might have noticed an option to opt in reseller contract details, or at the settings, the same thing, opt in reseller master group policy. What are these and what can they do for us? So, as mentioned, right now I am impersonating a customer, right? I'm looking at the customer, but if I X out of this, now I am looking at my network level. I can see license usage right now, out of how many I have purchased, how many I am using, and how many are available currently. Then if I go into the settings, I can create my master group policies. And in your case, Jason, you have them cascaded from your distributor level. Now, these master group policies, if they want to edit and change the group policies, they would need to copy yours that come from the master level and create their own based on that. If not, they can just cascade your master level policy as it is to the customers directly. The only situation is that then when a customer needs to unblock a specific website, they cannot unblock it. They will need to alter your master policy, which would be impossible. So again, just as a quick infrastructure on policies, distribution partners such as FutureSafe can create master policies at the distributor level. Then resellers, which is this account that I'm connected to right now, can be added in that distribution rule, and they'll have access to the policies. But if they have access to the policies from a distribution level, they are not able to alter the policies in any given way. They need to use it exactly as it is. Now, my recommendation for this is to always take the master reseller policy that's CISO approved for both servers and endpoints, and off of that, copy paste and create your own onboarding policy as an MSP. because you would need to change things, and you need to be able to do those changes. Now I'll show you an example of how a policy that is in the distribution chain looks at the customer level. I'll connect here, and this is the policy that's from the distribution chain. From a customer level, the only things I can do is change the priority of the policy, and that's me dropping it down here, right? And now I've changed the priority of a policy, but with these that are master policy, I cannot turn off. And unfortunately, if I need to whitelist a DNS domain, right, I am not able to. So I can see that this is allowed, but I am not able to block or unblock and so on. So best practices is take the CISO level policy that you see at the beginning over here, because you have the distribution coming from the master distributor, copy paste that with this action, then tailor that to your preferred onboarding or proof of concept or whatever you want to name it policy. And based off of that, you already have the hardening, CISO level hardening, and then you either use that as a cookie cutter for your customers, which you can edit and put exclusions, permissions, blocking, and so on. Or if your customer needs too many specificities, too many different approaches, use that to copy paste and create as many group policies as you need. Okay, and this is again also the connection between the master account to the lower level accounts, which are the license accounts. Another thing that you can cascade. Oh, sure, sure.
Before going into another area, just to recap, at the master distributor level, SPP, now FutureSafe, has CISO hardened group policies that are auto inherited at the reseller MSP level. Our recommendation is when your team has set up a new MSP account to make a copy of those group policies, the CISO hardened policies that are sitting there. This will make them more editable for the team and for the reseller, like adding things to an allow list, for instance. So duplicate the distributor level group policies for the reseller. And then at the reseller level, again, you can inherit the policies down to the corp end user and customer level. Is that a correct summary, Andre?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Okay. And then one question for that is, if let's say we have this new MSP stood up in the environment, they have these FutureSafe provided group policies. The MSP or the FutureSafe team has duplicated these, made some specific modifications at the MSP reseller level, and then they've clicked on the inheritance function so that their MSP specific group policies are now populating at the end customer level. All fine and dandy, but what happens when they make a change to a setting? How is that applied to all the corp and customer environments?
Yeah, so if you want to make changes to the settings, you then need to treat each layer where you broke the chain. So for example, if let's say distributor creates policies, resellers cascade policy, endpoints, customers get the same policy, if any change is done at the distribution level, that cascades immediately to the endpoints. Now, if you copy paste at reseller level from distributor, now any change done in the distributor level will not affect the reseller ones. And if you do that again with the customers, it will not affect from reseller to customer. Now, if you ever can use the cookie cutter technique, that's the best because it involves less work. However, if a customer then comes and needs a website unblocked all of a sudden, if you do that, then the MSP needs to raise a ticket with the distributor, and the distributor should whitelist that for all the MSPs, which would be a security risk. That is why I would not advise to something like this. Let me know if that covered the.
Yeah, it makes sense. The cookie cutter approach sounds nice in theory, but then it leads to some operational challenges. So maybe something to continue to kind of socialize with our teams, Jason, in the future. You do have a question, so I'll shut up. Go for it.
So what I was gonna say, which kind of follows to what you just said, we're going to do two things in the future. We're going to abandon the hardened policy starting point with our new customers. It's something that I created early on and have come to find out that it's far more trouble than it's worth. And it's operationally divergent from what Heimdal at large recommends. So what we are going to do is to require an onboarding call with our team to build out via questions and answers the first policy configuration for the customer. And then we can operationally change that or add to that in the future. But we will no longer operate from the mindset of a hardened policy we share with everybody from day one. The other thing that I wanted to mention, and this is unrelated to the topic, but I didn't really know where else to fit it, is Andre, I've known you long enough to know that you speak at two paces. You have a Heimdal webinar pace, and you have a training pace. And what I'm saying is this is primarily a recording, so feel free to, just speak at your normal pace, and if somebody needs to pause, they'll pause. And maybe we, can cover a little more during that hour's time. So that's really that.
No worries, Jason. So I'll give you a document with my recommendations as steps here. The thing that you invested in, the CISO hardened policy, is an invaluable asset that should be utilized to its maximum. So you already have it. The only difference is I would actually create a best practice for onboarding for endpoints in general, and the best practice policy for onboarding servers. GP, let's put the name GP here. For onboarding servers, then baseline policy for endpoints and for servers. MSPs will always need to look at that as a template, a starting point. Use distributor level GPs as a cookie cutter.
The initial starting point. But
okay.
But Jason, your team, so what Andre suggesting is don't completely nix having the distributor level kind of template. Maybe rename it from CISO hardened policy to like, distributor, suggestions or starting point. Based on your intake form and your team's kind of consultation and conversation with the MSP, you could still offer this as a service. So like, your team goes in, they copy the distributor template as a starting point, duplicate it, make the modifications at the reseller MSP level, based on what inputs they got from that MSP onboarding call or form checklist, however it's operationalized. Then the MSP account is created with not a generic template CISO hardened policy, but a policy that is specific to that MSP based on the inputs they provided to your team. It's a great starting point and actually a level of service not really offered anywhere else. So I think it's really cool. And there is a time and a place to have and maintain that distributor level master group policy. Because again, it'll save a few clicks from your team to have that as the starting point that they're duplicating and then making adjustments for each MSP.
Yeah, and I made a quick recommendation from distributor level to MSP level to customer level. And we can share this with the SMEs and if they need any clarification on it. And again, this is a recommendation, not mandatory, but this would be an ideal recommendation. Okay, should we go back to the console and let's see what are our remaining points? So now we go into the active clients list. Now, under management active clients, this is where we see all the endpoints that have the Heimdal license installed for this particular customer. Now, what I can do here, and this is where it gets interesting, I have for each of the endpoints, based on the modules that it has enabled in the group settings that this is a part of, again, what we discussed at settings, based on that, I can do a set of actions, which I'll give you a quick outline on each one. Revoke license, wake on LAN if this capability is present in the network card. Make it a priority update point for patches. Isolate, scan non-Heimdal devices on the same LAN. Add to another group of computers. Install a third-party software, uninstall software, do an AV scan, or make this a server for Windows image installing on the same network. And these are actions that I can do for that endpoint based on, again, the groups that it had active. This one has just 4 modules. So depending on the modules, I'll just have those. Then over here, you get a very diverse set of information, starting from host name, username, IP address. This is internal IP, private IP, version of Heimdal OS, current group policy, next group policy that you're sending it to, and this can be either automatic or manual, such as this. There's 2 ways in keeping this. Let me scroll down and move the scroll here. Then we have how many Heimdal modules are enabled, when was it last seen, if it has any warning, what's the risk score, and this comes after you have TAC enabled. And also there's a database field over here in which you can edit and put anything you want. SQL version, room number, so you can manage them as you see fit. You can actually create the values over there. Now you can also extract a quick report over here. And you can also filter this in any way by any type of device and so on and so forth, or directly search filtered on host name, username, and so on, room number, and so on and so forth. Now, where it gets interesting is also when you click on one device, but let's actually go over all the views that we have available before doing so. Hardware view. This is a quick overview over the estate based on a hardware filtering, CPU, how much is in use, memory, percentage disk, and so on. And it also gives you a status situation on each of the devices. Non-Heimdal devices, this will be the result of endpoints that have been discovered when scanning the network for non-Heimdal devices. This is where you would create groups of host names, right? And you can then group your host names. And this is also a functionality that comes with TAC, which shows you a log of all the actions that were sent from the server to your endpoints in the given time. And you have a full log of it. Now, if we go back, and by the way, let me see if there are any questions. Oh, yeah, there's a question. Go ahead, please.
What does, when we talk about the drop down from the asset level, and you have the option of scan the network, and there was an option of add to a group or add to another group. You remember that? Add to group.
Yep.
I don't know. I actually don't know what that means.
Not a problem. I'll explain. So if you do add to group, apply, then you have a drop-down list of groups that you are allowed to create over here. So let's say you are working for a big customer that has offices across the entire United States of America. And you want to create groups over here with each of the offices. And then when you look at your endpoints, you can also look at them via those particular groups. It's more of a organization type of thing so that you can keep your estate organized.
Not to be confused with the changing group policy, which is over on the right side, where it says apply to specific group policy.
Exactly.
So just grouping your endpoints into buckets, basically, and then that then gives you the ability to filter based on the hostname groups. I think. Once they're in groups, can you filter based on that criteria, Andre? It's actually not something I've ever tried before.
I believe so. You can just pivot the table based off of that. Yep. I believe. Yeah, the value comes up. The value comes up for sure. Okay, so Jason, did that answer the question?
Yes.
Okay, sir. Cool. Now, when you open up a computer, when you click on a computer, you now get to see first a set of information about the computer, ability to collect logs, ability based on, again, what group policy does this pertain to, and what modules you have active. You have the ability to take actions directly. And then you have the ability to look at the data collected by each of the products that was active, but only for this device. If you navigated from this angle, you get to see the data for the entire estate. Okay, what information can you find here? Device info, hardware, including what is its internal identity on the network and what's the external IP, hardware information. Then this is custom information, operating system information, including when Windows was installed and when was the last reboot, antivirus details, DNS info, and so on, and the log collection. Jason, I see that you have a call. I believe that after this point, we can stop it and then continue from the reports segment, the accounts and reports segment the next time.
Yeah, I have a call at the top of the hour. I'm fine with you guys continuing, even if we've not covered everything that was gold for today. Because it is a recording, that's fine with me too. I just need to drop off.
No worries.
Not now, but
No worries. No worries. So I'll just finish in 2 minutes, and that's pretty much it. And aside of this over here, as mentioned, you can take logs. You can first see a warning, let's say a log of any warning that has been issued for the computer. When did it start? When it was resolved? Or if not, if the endpoint still has this warning. You can take Heimdal logs, Windows Event Viewer logs, remote desktop logs, and this would be the videos that you log in the support sessions. And also when it comes to any infected file or file that starts bad things in the computer, you can export that from the computer to the cloud, and from the cloud, you can download it in a safe environment and detonate it. So this is basically the first part of our tour. Next time we start with the accounts, the alerts, reports, when do they happen? And then we will start the configuration in each of the products.